Top of developing news, two Albuquerque police officers under investigation for excessive use of force. Chief Gordon Eden made that announcement last night in a YouTube video, but he isn't saying what happened. Here's what we do know. An APD employee notified the department of possible misconduct by two officers, but when News 13 tried to get you answers about the case, the department didn't have much to say. The information posted in a YouTube video after 5 p.m. is limited.
Possible misconduct, excessive use of force by two of our officers was recently brought to our attention by an APD employee.
The only other details that Eden gave that the state police is investigating, and they sent information to the DOJ and the FBI. APD refused an on-camera interview and would not answer any other questions, including when it happened, what the allegations are, what the officers' names are, and if lapel camera video exists.
We turn now to this. News 13's learned a state police officer beat the rap for illegally dumping trash with some help from his boss. Last year, hikers came across a dump site off a dirt road in Rio Rancho. A trash bag had state cop Michael Mariscal's bills in it. Under Rio Rancho's illegal dumping law, that's enough to get someone a citation, even if they did not personally dump the trash. However, Mariscal was never actually given a ticket. It turns out he got some inadvertent help from State Police Chief Pete Casetas. When Casetas learned about the dump site, he ordered that the officer go clean it up immediately, which he did.
By the time it was reported to us and we had people respond, that had been removed. So since there was no evidence at the site, he was not issued a citation.
Yeah, so while Mariscal got off the hook, not everyone does. The city has issued 41 citations for illegal dumping so far this year. Chief Casetas tells News 13 Mariscal did receive additional punishment beyond picking up that trash, but did not specify what that punishment was.
A blood tech in Albuquerque who offered a pass on DWI tests in exchange for sex is pleading guilty to new charges. Last month, a jury convicted 46-year-old Jason Bice on 3 counts of extortion and 2 counts of acceptance of a bribe. But now, state prosecutors are merging that case with a new one. Yesterday, he pleaded guilty to 2 new extortion counts. Bice is expected to be sentenced in 6 to 8 weeks. Alamogordo police are asking for your help this morning in solving a double homicide. 19-year-olds Jonathan Garnand and Devon Blake were found shot to death in a car near Hendricks and 10th in November. And police now say they've seen people mention the case on social media, and they're asking anyone with information that might help in the investigation to come forward. If you do, you're asked to call police.
So do you want to save yourself some money or perhaps a trip to jail? Roswell Municipal Court is offering amnesty until Thursday. Amnesty Week is for those who have fallen behind on paying fines or performing mandated community service. People can avoid additional fines by setting up a payment plan and or given a chance to complete that community service. Okay, parents, listen up. Something you could be giving to your kids to make them feel better is being deemed dangerous this morning. The New Mexico Department of Health has received an alert from the Food and Drug Administration about Boeing compound. The product, which has labels in Chinese and English, may have high levels of lead, which can cause serious problems. It's sold online and in stores and is used to treat the flu and fever in infants and children. We have more information for you online about this, KRQE.com. Time now, it's 5:05. New this morning, you have 1 day to finish filing your taxes. Tomorrow is April 15th, the deadline.
Count it quickly, boy. And if you haven't started, you might want to file for an extension. If you're trying to get them done still, we might be able to help you out. News 13's Catherine Mazzone spoke with a financial expert to get some good last-minute ideas. What did you learn, Catherine?
Well, that's a great question, Adam. The expert's first word of advice: don't burn the midnight oil by waiting until the last minute. But if that's your plan, he suggests seeking professional help. For those getting them done today, here's some suggestions. Don't forget about the small stuff. According to Forbes, numbers add up. Don't forget deductions for mileage or any small donations you might have made. Perhaps you took some furniture or a stack of clothes to Goodwill. That counts. Pay. They also suggest paying attention to all details on the forms. If you plan on using tax software, it's best to use the long form interview. And more importantly, file even if you can't pay. Forbes says that's a good way to avoid extra penalties. And our expert says don't wait next year. Tax season starts right after April 15th, so keep track of everything on a regular basis.
Use a monthly worksheet. Have a plan. Look at your tax return from last year. Figure out if you had too much withheld, for example. If you're getting a large tax refund, it might be a good idea to take fewer withholding exemptions.
Now, something else you need to know, there's still time to get free help. If you have a simple return and earn less than $50,000 a year, you can call the IRS for assistance. Back to you.
Hey, good advice, Catherine. And once your taxes are in, it's time to look forward to that refund. We're going to give you some ideas on how you can make the most of the money you may get back in our next half hour.
We turn now to this. An illegal gun buy gone wrong ends with the suspect dead, and now a deputy is charged with second-degree manslaughter. This despite investigators saying the shooting was accidental. Police say undercover officers were trying to buy a gun from Eric Harris during a sting operation in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Harris got suspicious and ran. Deputy Robert Bates told authorities that when he caught up with Harris, he intended to use his taser, but he grabbed his gun by mistake and shot him. Harris died on scene. And this just in, police have just arrested a man who's accused of killing another on a college campus in North Carolina. Police say former student Kenneth Morgan Stansel III killed his former boss with a rifle yesterday. He was arrested after he was located in Florida this morning. The shooting prompted a lockdown and cancellation on Monday's classes. Classes at that North Carolina Community College are expected to resume today.
Happening today, a jury could be seated in the James Holmes murder trial. A Colorado judge expects the 12-member panel to be finalized and ready to hear testimony in that case in the coming hours. Holmes is pleading not guilty by reason of insanity in the 2012 Aurora movie theater shooting that killed 12 people and injured 70 others. 9,000 people were considered as part of the jury. Opening statements in the trial are scheduled to begin April 27th. An airport worker is lucky to be alive this morning after he got stuck in the cargo hold of an airliner. An Alaska Airlines plane was in flight for 14 minutes when they heard the worker screaming for help. A passenger and a flight attendant heard that noise. The flight was forced to make an emergency landing. Alaska Airlines says the employee was in the climate-controlled pressure part of the cargo hold. He was taken to the hospital. He was later released. It's not known how he got stuck in there in the first place.
What in the world?
Can you imagine not only getting stuck, but hearing that noise mid-flight and wondering what is going on down there?
That'd be terrifying.
It's a good thing. Developing right now, we're awaiting a statement from the FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office on allegations of misconduct against 2 Albuquerque police officers.
Last night, APD Chief Gordon Eden announced that an investigation is underway, but he didn't share many details. He isn't naming the officers or saying much about what they actually did.
Possible misconduct, excessive use of force by 2 of our officers was recently brought to our attention by an APD employee.
Yeah, the information posted in a YouTube video Monday evening was limited. We know an APD employee notified the department of possible misconduct by 2 officers, but when we tried to get you answers about the case, the department did not have much else to say. Now, the only other details Eden gave were that state police is investigating and they sent information to the DOJ and FBI.
We are committed to continued accountability and transparency, and we remain committed to you.
APD refused to go on camera with us for an interview and would not answer any other questions. Now, state police did not say much either, except that they are investigating what happened and that the incident took place on March 20th. The FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office tell News 13 they're working on a statement for us. As soon as that comes into our newsroom, of course, we will share it with you on air and, of course, online at KRQE.com.
On to this, the son of a Rio Rancho father who killed his 7-year-old daughter and then himself is using social media to remember them. In early February, 56-year-old Leonard Galbudon killed his daughter Victoria, then himself in his Rio Rancho home. Victoria's older brother Brandon now wants everyone to know how great his little sister and father were.
I completely understand in his way, and what he was thinking of how do I make sure that my daughter is safe from a twisted future.
Brandon started a Facebook page called RIP Victoria Gabaldon to give his father's side of the story. According to police, Leonard Gabaldon was in the middle of a custody battle. Brandon says his dad knew that he would be okay, but in a message on his phone just before the deaths, he was worried about Victoria's security and safety. Police say there was never an indication that Victoria was unsafe. Brandon even posted his dad's eulogy, saying his father had turned into a different person and was unable to function properly because he was so worried about his daughter. Times 5:33 now. An Albuquerque teenager is facing charges as another teen fights for his life. Kyle Jones was taken into custody Monday afternoon. APD says that Jones pistol whipped the victim and in another instance actually shot at him and threatened others. That boy underwent emergency surgery, but police say he may not make it. Jones is charged with aggravated battery now and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
We turn now to this. Albuquerque city leaders are hoping other New Mexico cities will join them in the push for a special session. They want state lawmakers to convene again and pass the capital outlay bill. It is worth $264 million in public projects statewide. Lawmakers could not agree on the final bill, and that cost the city of Albuquerque more than $20 million in projects. The money would have helped APS and UNM. $1.5 million would have gone to extend the Paseo de Volcan highway. That's between Rio Rancho and Albuquerque. Governor Susana Martinez thinks calling a special session may be pointless, though, because a compromise has not been made. It seems the homeless campers living in the new tent city are not going anywhere. Yesterday, we saw several tents and people in the Arroyo in the Four Hills area. The residents have been camped out for about a week now. So far, eviction notices have not been handed out. The Albuquerque Journal reports the campers do not have permission to be there. The land is owned by a company out of Iowa.
A program that helps Albuquerque's homeless is benefiting from a very generous donation. United Healthcare donated $25,000 to Heading Home. It's a program that finds permanent housing for the homeless and their families. The charity says $25,000 will go a long way.
We've got at least a couple of people that we can house for at least a year and their family members with that money. So it's excellent.
The city says with Heading Home's additional programs like Vets Heading Home and Keeping Families Together, more than 450 people and their families have been housed. United Healthcare is also giving $25,000 to the Roadrunner Food Bank. The deadline is almost here. Countdown's on. You only have one more day to file your taxes.
That's the downside of the story. But on the other hand, that means many of us are one step closer to receiving our tax return. That's great news, right?
That is good news.
News 13's Catherine Mazzone spoke with an expert to learn how to best utilize all of that extra money. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Crystal. Now, our expert says to keep this in mind. This is your money, and you earned it.
The problem is a lot of people take that as a gift and say, hey, I got to go spend it like a gift. It's not a gift. It's money you work for, so use that money to spend it for you.
Mike Suttle with Suttle Financial Group says it's okay to splurge a little, but don't blow all your money. He says this money is how you can use to plan ahead. Use some of it to pay down debt or to make emergency savings plan. Suttle tells me everyone should have at least 3 to 6 months of emergency savings. It's an essential part of any financial plan, but he says only 38% of Americans have one. He also suggests putting the money towards furthering yourself or your career, like buying an online class. Now, Suttle says it's also okay to spend the money on someone else. Remember, the best way to reduce taxes is to give some of your money away. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Catherine. Great advice there. We also asked Suttle about bigger purchases like a new car stereo. He says there's nothing wrong with spending part of the refund on that if it's something that's important to you and something you think you'll get a lot of use out of. Time now is 5:37. Turning to this, today Bernalillo County commissioners are expected to talk about buying a $21 million office building. Alvarado Square is up for sale. It would allow the county to consolidate its offices, which are now spread through the county. Now, supporters of the purchase say the price tag is not much more than it would cost to update buildings the county already owns. But some commissioners are pointing to the county's budget crisis, some of which is a result of bad investments by the county treasurer. Other commissioners think it could lower costs and improve customer service in the long run, though.
Developing right now. Onto this.
A Maryland couple is in trouble for their controversial parenting style, and it's not the first time either. Listen to this story. Danielle and Sasha Maytive thought their 6-year-old and 10-year-old were missing, but the kids were actually in the custody of Child Protective Services. The police picked them up because they were walking home alone from a park for the second time that CPS knows of. It's the family's second run-in with Child Protective Services. The couple made headlines back in January for similar circumstances, saying they believe in free-range parenting, giving their kids freedom to play outside alone. Now they've been charged again for child neglect. A Maryland state law, though, it states that any child under the age of 8 must be supervised by someone older than 13. The parents were allowed to take the kids home this time with some strict rules, though.
They made us sign a safety plan that says that we will not leave them unattended at all until they will follow up. and I'm not going to risk my kids being snatched again like this by CPS.
The Métives are appealing the guilty verdict in their first case there. Time now is 5:39 and